Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out the chaotic story of Dexy's Midnight Runners and Come On Eileen, New British Canon.
Lisa, did you see the Grammys?
You beat Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Well, you haven't heard the last of them.
When faced with the phrase one-hit wonder, Dexy's Midnight Runners would be one of the first bands to come to most US minds. Their mega hit, Come On.
What do you say?
When faced with the phrase one-hit wonder, Dexy's Midnight Runners would be one of the first bands to come to most US minds.
True.
Their mega hit, Come On Eileen, is one of the eternal dance floor fillers, a feat they could never have possibly repeated. But for Britain, Dexy's Midnight Runners represent one of the most unique, innovative, and downright best bands these isles have ever produced.
Wow,
Not quite the ska of the Specials or Madness, nor the new wave of the Jam or Elvis Costello. Dexys, with their American R&B inspired sound, three-piece horn section, and/or Celtic strings, stood apart from their supposed peers.
How strange is
Not
that?
to mention the synthetic pop dominating the charts at the time.
Right.
And with their numerous UK top 40 hits, including a second number one in the form of Gino, there were way more than that single meteoric
They had a second
single.
number one.
So who were Dexy's Midnight Runners?
Good question.
Why did they go through 16 members before their worldwide smash?
16,
And
wow.
what is Kevin Rowland actually singing about? This is New British Canon, and this is the story of Come On Eileen.
Awesome. Yo, I love this song. I remember hearing it on the radio as a kid, and I loved it. I had no idea who did the song. I didn't know Dexy's Midnight Runner. I never heard. I didn't know. Then when I was in college, I was in the marching band in the drum line, and we did an 80s themed show, and we played Come On Eileen. That's when I learned it was Dexy's Midnight Runners. But I've been getting into more British music, and apparently they were more popular in Britain, or I don't know, maybe more popular, but they have more than one hit over there. People knew who they were. It's such an interesting group. Like he was saying, they have horns and Celtic strings and but it's 80s pop. Really interesting. I don't know anything about these guys. I don't know exactly where they're from. I assume they're from Britain. Because. So let's learn about Dexy's Midnight Runners and one of the greatest songs ever recorded. 1978 to 1980, Northern Soul, Gino and the Young Soul Rebels. Okay.
Dexy's Midnight Runners were formed in 1978 in Birmingham, England, by former Killjoys vocalist Kevin Rowland and guitarist Kevin "Al" Archer. Unlike the majority of other post-punk bands, Dexys took influence from the Northern Soul movement, a subculture of British youths that had grown up listening to obscure American soul and R&B singles.
That's wild.
And Dexy's sound was based on that, mixed with punk's energy. Their initial idea was to make music people could dance to, that they felt was lacking from the class of '77. Taking their name from a slang term for Dexedrine, the 8-piece lineup distinguished themselves with a blaring 3-piece brass section.
What is Dexedrine, y'all? Is that a nefarious substance? Central nervous system stimulant prescription medicine. It is used for the treatment of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That's great. That gives me an idea of who they are and what their personalities are like. I mean, probably Kevin Rowland, that's his name, right? Probably, maybe he had ADHD, and he's owning it. It's like, we're on Dexedrine.
But at the time, not all audiences understood their sound, their horns, or the Otis Redding and Sam and Dave covers that became part of their live repertoire.
They did Otis Redding. There's passion in his voice. That was very convincing. That's really good. Really good, Kevin. Way to go. Impressive. You know, now I'm hearing his voice again in that little sample. I don't know if I can play it on YouTube, but I am hearing, you know, there were a lot of singers in the 80s that had that same kind of tone, like Robert Smith from The Cure, Morrissey, even the guy from Duran Duran, Simon Le Bon. They all have that kind of, the Human League guy, the guy from Human League. They all have that same timbre.
The important point is, that it was radical to do what we did in 1978. We looked back to the 60s and reinterpreted it. People thought we were a joke. We knew better. From the beginning, Rowland knew what he wanted, and his passion and intensity shaped the band. By his instruction, all band members quit their jobs, signed on the dole, and rehearsed 9 to 5 in abandoned warehouses, while also steering clear of pre-gig alcohol and drugs. While this made them a formidable live force and embedded a gang mentality within the band, living on top of each other under Rowland's leadership would grow tiresome. In 1979, the group did a tour opening for the Specials, where they varyingly impressed and confused audiences all around the UK. Said saxophonist Steve Spooner, "I can remember people's faces like there was a wind blowing them back, literally standing back going, wow, what's this? Nobody had heard anything like us. We were full on. It was an assault. There was no competition. We were it." After their 1979 debut single, Dance Stance, made its way to number 40 in the UK charts, their follow-up,
Number 40, not bad.
defied all expectations and topped the charts for a single
I haven't
week
heard
in
Gina.
early 1980.
I don't know if I can play that on YouTube, but the little sample that I just heard sounded kind of like ska. It was a shuffle, and it went dun 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 dun. Horns playing like a slow ska. Okay.
The track's lyrics were inspired by a formative gig that Rowland had attended when he was 15, seeing forgotten soul singer Gino Washington and the Ram Jam Band play in London.
I dig it.
Achieving number one with
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So you wrote a song honoring his idol. Wow. And it went to number 1? That's so rare, isn't it? Usually love songs go to number 1. Oh, well, I mean, it is kind of a love song in a way.
Achieving number 1 with only their second single, the band had
That's
mixed
amazing.
feelings. On one side, they had been accepted by the single-buying public. On the other side, critics saw them as a tacky revival act, unworthy of admiration. That had been my dream as a kid, being on Top of the Pops. It was great to do that. I just wish I could have actually experienced it and savored it. I thought that if I got on Top of the Pops, no one would put me down. But it didn't work. I still felt unworthy of everything.
Damn. He probably is suffering some imposter syndrome, or he gets to the where he thought would make him happy, but it doesn't make him happy, so there's that hole in his soul. Something I need to look up. This was 1978. What year, when was the disco craze? Was the disco craze happening? Okay, the disco era began in 1970 and ended in 1980. Oh, the whole decade? Really? Did it leak over into the UK at all? In the northern sections of the United Kingdom, the Northern Soul explosion, which started in the late 1960s and peaked in 1974, made the region receptive to disco. Dexy's Midnight Runners kind of came out of that same influence, which the region's disc jockeys were bringing back from New York City. Wow. So they were kind of in the midst of disco, but they weren't disco. I'm just curious about the context of the world at the time, of how they were being viewed, you know? Because I could see, if they're doing 60s soul music, I could see how in 1978, they're not yet far enough removed from that for it to be popular again, you know? I feel like there needs more time for that trend to come back around. But they were doing it anyway. And it worked. It worked for them. Great work, guys. Good work, Kevin.
At the end of the year, they had released their debut album, Searching for the Young Soul Rebels, with smart-mouthed brass-led powerhouses such as Tell Me When My Light Turns Green.
That's very 60s soul. Yeah.
And There, My Dear. It confirmed them as one of the most exciting
Energetic.
British bands since
exciting.
the Specials. And for 6 of the band's members, this seemed like the perfect time to leave and start their own bands away from the control of Kevin Rowland.
Oh. Okay, this says Dexys Mark II, 1981, new band, new label, and the projected Passion Review.
After a tense 40-date European tour, and Rowland becoming increasingly isolated from the rest of the group, saxophonist Jeff Blythe and Steve Spooner, drummer Andy Grocott, keyboardist Mick Talbot, and bassist Pete Williams all left to form their own group, The Bureau. Soon after that, Rowland's chief co-songwriter, Archer, left to form Blue Ox Babes, leaving Rowland with only trombone player Big Jim Patterson remaining in his group.
That's like a comedy sketch. The whole band leaves, and there's a trombone player. So they could have just done vocals and trombone. What would that be like? Wow. Y'all, I've nothing but respect for Kevin Rowland, but he may have been a little controlling. Seems like. Is he still with us? Is he still on this planet? You know, sometimes people have specific things they want, and that's part of what made him great, probably, is he had the specific way he wanted things done, but it just was too much for the rest of them to handle. They're like, F this, man. He's still with us. He's 71 years old. Way to go, Kevin. You're doing it. You're doing it. Way to go. Oh, look, he's still performing. Or in 2012, he's still performing. Great. Awesome. He may have been a genius, y'all. Or, I mean, he's still with us. He might be a genius.
It was only the motivation of wanting to do them down that made me carry on, which isn't a very good basis for anything. I thought, it's my fucking group, and you're not going to do that. I'm going to form another Dexys Midnight Runners and beat those bastards. Rowland soon began assembling Dexys Mark II, resulting in a new look. As shown in the Christmas Top of the Pops performance of Gino, Rowland picked out an athletic, boxing-booted style, counter to Mark I's On the Waterfront chic. Due to the poor chart showing of Keep It Part 2,
that's very 60s.
Their label, EMI, dropped them. The band soon picked up by Phonogram. In this configuration, the band released 3 singles, with only 1981's Show Me making the top 20.
Oh, that one's a little more ska, a little more punk even. So, this might be a blessing, you know? I mean, all those people leaving may have been a blessing because it sounds like he picked right back up. Him and a trombone player are the only ones. I still can't get over that. That's hilarious.
This didn't instill confidence from their new label, and as the 8-piece band were each living off only £60 a week, Dexys would soon need to deliver a hit if they wanted to continue. Feeling that a change in sound was due, Rowland decided to implement a Celtic element, wishing to add strings and reinforce his Van Morrison allusions and cultural ancestry. While any other band leader might want to hire string players, Rowland instead ruled that the brass section needed to learn the cello within the next 2 months if they wanted to remain in the band. This alienated his new band further. Their next tour of theatres was known as the Projected Passion Review. Though facing half-full venues, their 3 London shows at the Old Vic are noted as Dexys Midnight Runners' musical high points.
So, Kevin's running on revenge. He wants vengeance for everybody leaving him, but that's causing him to push people away even more. Did I hear correctly that he wanted strings, so he told the horn section you needed to learn cello? That's kind of not cool. You know? I wish this was a love story, but I don't think it is.
In that aftermath, half the band left again. I think it has to change every year.
There you go.
I want it to be ever-changing and ever-challenging. Not just the music, but the group. The whole fucking thing.
Wow.
Always challenging, and a little bit threatening at times as well. To kick things up once in a while and just be good. Always good. Coming into 1982, Dexys had revised their lineup to feature a trio of string players: Helen Bevington, Steve Shaw, and Roger Huckle. Being that Rowland's word was law, he also renamed the string section so that they had Cod Irish names to coincide with the band's Celtic musical shift. Collectively known as the Emerald Express, Bevington became O'Hara, Shaw became Brennan, and Huckle Macduff.
He made them change their names? What? I've never heard of that before. That is some control. I mean, he did it for artistic reasons so they would seem more Celtic. But dang, they agreed to it. Wow, this is getting dark. Okay.
Fans' first indication of the band's new lineup and sonic direction was on Celtic Soul Brothers.
That works.
Which did not make the UK top 40.
That sound works, though.
But they had been working on a song since the projected Passion review shows named Yes Let's, which would become very important for the band indeed.
1982, Yes Let's, Tom Jones and Sexual... Oh.
The version of Yes Let's that debuted on their 1981 tour was a very loose approximation of what it would become, still with dominant horn lines, as well as a recurring group chant of its title throughout. But its opening lyric, bereft of its iconic phrasing, was the seed that would become Come On Eileen.
Oh, that song became Come On Eileen.
As standard, Dexy songs would go through weeks, if not months, of rewriting. Fragments of ideas being worked out until they were perfect in Rowland's mind. Musically, as well as strings, banjo and accordion was added to really differentiate the song from what they had done previously. And this was combined, as before, with a new fashion choice. This time based on Irish vagabonds, scruffy hair, dungarees, and scarves. The song itself was inspired by several different sources. The rhythm, that bump, ba-bump, has been a staple of pop music since the 1960s. Present in Tom Jones's It's Not Unusual.
Yeah!
But also in Unit 4 Plus 2's Concrete and Clay.
Yep.
Its chorus melody is most likely inspired by Northern Soul staple, Jimmy James and the Vagabonds, A Man Like Me.
It's kind of similar. I don't know. Yeah, kind of.
But most interestingly, the Celtic instrumentation and slowing down and speeding up part was stirred from a demo tape that Archer had left Rowland before his departure that featured future Blue Ox Babe song, What Does Anybody Ever Think About?
What? Oh my god, what a stab in the back.
Archer.
Oh my god, oh my god. Wow. He took that musical idea from one of the bandmates that quit on him. That is vengeance, Kevin. Wow. It's such a happy song, but it's revenge. Wow. Yo, this is nuts. This is crazy.
Archer, upon hearing Come On Eileen on its release, could see the similarities. It was my music. There was no mistaking it. To be fair, he wrote the words to the music, but it was the tune that was so distinctive and made it a success. That tune was mine. Patterson, who was credited on the song, countered. At the end of the day, it's between those two. Kevin didn't steal any songs from Kevin Archer, because I co-wrote all those songs, and I certainly didn't steal anything. But what is Come On Eileen actually about? Rowland at the time said it was about a girl he'd grown up with, and once they got to teenage,
that's the story
sexual
I've always
desire
heard.
had complicated their friendship.
Yeah.
Others had favourably compared the song's romantic, let's get out of this dead-end town theming to Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. The most
Such a good
compelling
song.
explanation, and the one Rowland has stuck to most, is using Eileen as a composite of multiple women to represent his teenage sexual repression. He told The Guardian in 2014, on the Projected Passion review tour in 81, there was this girl interviewing us, and she was going on about the spiritual nature of this music, and thinking to myself, right, but that's not what I'm feeling at this moment. She was really good looking, and I was reminded of being a teenager, surrounded by Irish Catholic girls you couldn't touch, but at the same time with these overpowering feelings of lust, which you're not supposed to have. A lot of the misinterpretation of this song, and everything else Dexys have done, comes down to Rowland's somewhat garbled delivery. While working on their previous album, producer Peter Wingfield noted, the lyrics were very important to him. It was like this big statement. And then to my mind, he sang it so sort of stylized as to make the words virtually unintelligible. I remember saying, listen, if the words are so important, people should hear what they are. On occasion, Rowland has stated that his vocals had been inspired by the hiccup-laden style of chairman of the board frontman, General Johnson.
Whoa. I hope I can play that on YouTube because that's a fascinating vocal.
Thematically, Come On Eileen is the closest Rowland ever got to the loved-up soul of his vocal inspiration.
What's it say? Dexys Mark III, 1982-1987, success, Don't Stand Me Down, and longevity.
Come On Eileen was released in June 1982. After a few weeks crawling up the charts, a July appearance on Top of the Pops in that iconic garb skyrocketed the track's chances. It hit number 1 on the 1st of August, where it stayed for 4 weeks. It would go on to be the UK's biggest selling single of 1982. And win the 1983 Brit Award for Best Single. Its parent album, 2IA, would top out at number 2 and remain in the UK album chart for 46 weeks. The track wouldn't be released in the US until 1983, which along with the MTV super rotation of its music video, got Come On Eileen to number 1, knocking Michael Jackson's Billie Jean off the top of Billboard. But Rowland got no joy from their lofty pop cultural position. By this point, the touring band had become a 12-piece, filled with session players that weren't from Birmingham and cared not for Rowland's original vision for the band, nor their gang mentality. He then sabotaged a potential support slot for David Bowie's Serious Moonlight tour, him telling the crowd they can fuck off after opening with their big hits.
Kevin, fame makes people do crazy stuff. I can't believe it knocked out Billie Jean from number 1. That just goes to show how big that song was. That's amazing. Billie Jean, that's like the biggest single from the biggest album ever at the time, right? I don't think Beat It was bigger. Thriller, the song wasn't bigger. It was Billie Jean all the way. Hang on. I just gotta look that up. What was the biggest single from Thriller album? Billie Jean, released in January 2, 1983. It was over 7 weeks. And then Dexys, then Kevin Rowland came along. Wow. You know, also, when you have that many people performing in the band, you have to pay all those people. You have to split the money somehow, right? That causes a lot of resentment too. And then you have the one guy who's credited as the writer. He's making all the publishing money. The rest of the band are just hired guns. That's not a good situation, I don't think. It sounds like they didn't mention it directly, but it sounds like several more people quit. Okay, right, no. So this is the third version of them. This is post Come On Eileen version. So even after Come On Eileen, they had all the success. They quit. Kevin couldn't keep them around. And so he hired session musicians that were not even from Birmingham. And then sounds like he opened for David Bowie and he told the crowd to go F themselves. Is that what we're looking at here? Kevin.
Him telling the crowd they can fuck off after opening with their big hits. Do you know, I didn't feel any sense of achievement. I think I did really want a career in America, and I was desperately disappointed because I knew that, by that time, we weren't taken seriously. We were seen as a novelty act. They thought we were Dickensian or something. Dexy's reaction to their success was released 3 years later. The grand sweeping ambition of Don't Stand Me Down.
I've not heard that song. I love the snare drum sound, though. I hope I can play this on YouTube.
With 12-minute epics and beautiful Beach Boys harmonies,
12 minutes.
It was a commercial flop on release, but is now considered by some as one of the best British albums of the 1980s.
Really?
But due to the then-present public indifference to the album, it led to their dissolution in 1987. While they were seen as a novelty in their time, the years since have shined kindly on Dexy's Midnight Runners. They bucked against every trend that made the new wave electronic 1980s what it's often remembered as. Not using synthesizers, not being polished and clean, not neatly fitting into a movement or scene for the sake of easy marketability. While other supposed second British invasion flash in the pans could easily get confused for each other, Kajagoogoo, a flock of seagulls, and modern English only discernible by their outlandish haircuts.
Yeah.
Dexys stood apart and alone. Unresigned to their fate, they marked themselves out as different. And in that moment, and forevermore, they meant everything to so very many. And with Come On Eileen, I swear, you'll hum that tune forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's the lyrics. Brilliant. Brilliant. That's not what I expected at all. I expected Dexy's Midnight Runners to be like family, like a bunch of brothers and sisters and cousins and stuff. That's what it looks like, you know? It looks like they all live together. They shop for clothes together. They go to the back to school sales together. But no, there was some heavy vengeance going on. That's amazing. I'm surprised that such negativity could create such a beautiful song, beautiful piece of art. What is Kevin Rowland up to now? What's he doing? Since around 2005, Rowland has hosted a popular DJ tour in clubs and venues throughout the UK. In summer of 2020, Rowland released a new video for the song Ragdoll, a promo which features his grandson, Rue. He's still doing it. I do want to listen to the album after Come On Eileen. The video was saying it's supposed to be really good. So the group of band members who quit first, one of them was this guy named Mark Cordery, and he accused the band of emotional fascism and described their music as perversion of soul music with no tenderness, no sex, no wit, no laughter. That's kind of harsh. The title of the video is The Chaotic Story of Dexy's Midnight Runners. Definitely chaotic. That's a wild story. Damn, Kevin. I love this guy's documentaries, Trash Theory. It's really good. Very in-depth. Wow. Well, thank you all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.